Hi, we're going to talk about creating account for using the GUI tools here. Creating account here, you're going to create account and block account, remove an account. That's admin's job. How to do it, we want to know. They show you have system config users as a root in the shell prompt. You need to have a super users account in order to do this, to create an account. Show you the screen here. This is a GUI screen, GUI way to do it. Also, you have a command line interface way to do it. If you ask an admin which way they are going to go with, command line interface, CLI or GUI, I bet most admin going to tell you I'm going to use a command line interface. That's easier. They know both ways to create user, remove user, but the preferred way for most of the admin is still using this way. This is similar to the Cisco world here. Cisco have a GUI version, but many Cisco guys don't even know that. What? We have a GUI version? No, never heard about that. Even they heard about that, they get use of the command line interface. It's so powerful. You say, but if you need to type a lot of command lines, you're going to make a typo. Why I need to retype it here? I just copy and paste, change a little bit. I don't need to do the typing. It's very straightforward. I don't need to use a GUI. You use a GUI here, you may turn out to be troubleshoot the GUI itself here, and you don't get use of it. It's more powerful, it's more faster. If we can have a game and ask a guy using a GUI, ask a guy using a command line interface to configure a complex scenario, guess who's going to win the game here? The command line interface guy. So anyway, they just show you have a GUI way, you have command line interface way. These are the main options for user add. See, that's the beauty of Linux. Just user add. You're going to add a user, so user add. It's very easy to understand. There's no fancy stuff. You have option here. You want to use the user add -C -D -E -F. And what does that mean? C, D, E, F, they may not mean something. It's not a shorthand for anything, but once you get use of it, it's cool. The full name here and something else, year, month, day. That's expiration date. Expiration date, comment, and home directory. They show you. You just type in the main space user add. They'll tell you everything here. It's online menu. You don't need to memorize. Once you use a couple of times, you remember. User add, I'm going to use a -E. So what's -E? You check the menu, they tell you what's a -E. -E here, expiration date. The password will expire. That's common sense, I guess. 2012, 12/31. And that will expire. Then so what's you? What's you here? This parameter create account with the specify user ID value. That's your user ID. Your password will expire 2012, 12/31. Your user ID is 1012, and that's your username here. It's very straightforward. I like Linux. I like Linux a lot. It's very simple. You don't have to make it fancy. Just straight to the point, make it work. It's not like Windows. You need to keep giving the customer new version. The word I was using to giving. Actually, you're going to sell those to the customer. Customer have no choice but to keep updating with the most widely used Windows operating system. It's the fact and the situation for the last many years. The Linux, they don't do that. They don't have to do that. That's the beauty of open source. No one is making any money by keep updating, do unnecessary updating or different way to do the same task so you can make money. You need to use ID, that's cool. If you use your social security number, you're not supposed to do so. Social security number is not served for that purpose. for a network, you should have your network ID. As a student, you may have a student ID. As a network, you have a network ID. So many ID here. This is the PIN number. Using the database concept you understand, you need to have a specific unique number to identify you. We have a VIN number, vehicle identification number, to identify a car or an engine. We have a license plate number to identify a car. So we have a MAC address to identify a PC. We have an IP address to identify a PC which is connecting to internet. So UID, same idea. This you have to use the number. Number here is easier. A number is unique here. You may have identical names here if you set up the rule like that. So one guy have a John Doe, another guy have a John Doe. Is that acceptable? That is acceptable. As long as they have a different user ID. We are going to be based on the user ID as the PIN number. Who am I? This is the utility. We're talking about what's utility. This is utility. W, that's short for who. W, who. Last here. The last command I use, so last here. The program produces a list of recent login or the last login. Say you have Jenny here, TTY 333, when they log in. Those are cool information. And system config users, user data, you can use a GUI version, account info, password, info groups, belong to which group. And you can also password Pamela here. Yes, you change the password or new password, retry password. Then that's based on the password rules, setting up with a simple tool. Yes, you can do that. And append a comment. This is options for user mode. Going to see what is the user mode. They describe what is the user mode and give you option. Now, user mode -U. So what -U is in here? Unlock. The option unlock is locked account password here. If you try 3 times your account with incorrect password, your account get locked. Using this user mode -U, and that's your user ID, then they unlock your user account. You can try it. We have done that a lot. I have done that. User ID here is 1072. That's your PIN number. It's actually your identification number. Then that's your username and that's your directory. They're going to unlock your password. We do that. We talk to the help desk. Guess what? Help desk just do it 1 line like that. That's it. That's typing. That's like 1 minute work for them. As long as they know what they're doing. It's very quick, straightforward. It's very good. Deleting account, same idea. You create an account, you delete account. User ID, group ID, UID, GID. It's very easy to understand. User file, you know, say find option UID is called 1004. That's a user ID of 1004. You find this info. Deleting a user account. You can use the GUI version. Yes, no. You can use user del, user delete Pamela. I'm going to delete your user account. It's very simple here. Find your username, delete. And -RF. So user del, what's -RF? You do a main user del. They tell you what's the RF here. You say remove. They're going to remove -R, and they tell you false. That's a false to option to delete in the fact that it is not used. Okay, so they give you a reason why I want to delete I want to remove your password because false. You're not using your password. I'm going to account. I'm going to delete your account. Managing groups, showing you create a user group, add group, property. That's a GUI version. You surely have a command version. So you are using the options for group add. Remember user add? Now we have a group add a user account, add the group ID. If you have this group ID, then you belong to this group. It's very, very simple, straightforward. So that's it, huh? I'm going to show you a tutorial to show you how you use the command line to really do this.
Hi, I'm Julie Johnson with Firebox Training. Today I'm going to show you how to look at users on a Linux system, and this applies to Unix as well, and also how to look at the etc password and etc group file.
Remember the lady just said that this is for Linux and also apply for Unix. Unix, Linux, they are pretty much similar. That's the reason we are using the Linux to learn Unix. I have been used both of that. Linux is free, Unix is not free. If they are pretty much similar, why we want to use a not free operating system to learn both? We prefer to use a free system to learn both. So that's the basic idea why you don't want to use Unix to learn Linux. You actually use Linux to use Unix. One is free, one is not free.
To see how group membership works. These are really important concepts because when you're working with files, there's always file permissions associated with those, and you need to understand how users and groups work. Okay, so the first thing you'll notice is I'm logged in already as root, and any regular user can actually see the etc password and etc group files. You don't have to have special permission, but if you want to create users, you do have to have root permission. Okay, so what I'm going to do first of all is just show the contents of the special file called /etc/password. Anytime a new user is created or deleted, this file is automatically modified, and it looks a little bit cryptic at first, but once we break this into more manageable pieces, this will make a little bit more sense. Okay, so each one of these lines here represents a user account on the system. Now, they might not be logged in currently, but it is a user account. Okay, and so just to show you what happens when I create a new user, I'm going to say add user. You can either say add user or user add, both will work. And then
remember, the textbook says user add, and the lady said that add user will also work. This is not a very good idea. I don't really like that, but what can I do? Then she said that you can also use add user, that will also work, but she changed her mind, type in user add. Stick with one way to do it, don't use both ways. This time use the user add, next time use the add user. It's not a good practice.
The username. Now I'm going to do a cat on the etc password file again, and you can see that we now have an entry down here. Okay, so when you look at each one of these entries, you'll see that we have information separated by colons. So the colon is just the delimiter of that information. The first piece of information is the username. The second piece of information is simply an X, and that just indicates that there's a password file that has encrypted passwords in a separate location. Now, in older versions of Unix and Linux, the encrypted password actually was displayed in here, but for security reasons, it's been moved to a separate file. So this third piece of information here is the numeric user ID. So when somebody types in the ID command, it tells them what their user ID is. So I'm logged in as root, and you can see here that my ID is 0. Okay, and you'll see it's right here as well. The fourth piece of information is the user's primary group that they belong to. And so this is where the /etc/group file comes into play. We're going to open that up in just a moment. The fifth piece of information is a description of the user. And so for this particular entry here, it's empty. But if I wanted to modify it, I could. In fact, if I want to edit the Etsy password file, I can do it through here, or there's also commands that allow me to edit the entries. You know, instead of accessing this directly, I could use commands. So what I'm going to do in here is actually put in my name. Okay, so now you'll see here, we have here my name, and then the next entry is the user's home directory. So when the user logs in, this is where they're automatically going to be taken. And then the last entry is the user's default shell that they're taken into. So here it's bash, but if I wanted to set it to something else like the corn shell or the bourne shell, I could. Okay, so what I'm going to do is now change the password for user Julie, because I never actually set the password. So I'll say password Julie, and now I'm going to give a new password. As you're typing this in, the cursor doesn't move, and that's by design. Okay, so if it comes back saying it's based on a dictionary word, I recommend changing it to a non-dictionary word, but since I'm just in a play-around environment here, it doesn't really matter because I'm going to be deleting this server shortly anyway. Okay, so I now changed the password. Let me go ahead and log out. And now I'm going to log back in, and I'll go ahead and open this up, and I'm going to log in as Julie.
You saw that the GUI version and the command line, they are used both in this case here.
And provide my password. And just to see where I am here, I'm going to do pwd, and you can see I'm in the home Julie directory. Okay, so now, back to...
This is simple stuff here. PWD, what does that stand for? It's a print working directory. Show me where am I.
The Etsy password file. You'll see here that my primary group is 500. Users can belong to multiple groups, but they're always going to have one primary group that they belong to. So I'm going to go to a special file that represents the groups on the system. It's called Etsy group. And you can see here that there is actually a group called Julie. Now maybe I don't want that group to exist. If I log in as the root user, I can get rid of that group. I can add other groups as well. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to log in as the root user. And there is a command called group add, and there's also a command that lets us delete groups. Okay, so let me look at the man pages first of all for group add. Group add takes as its argument a group name, and there's some...
This is very, very valuable. They show you whenever you have a doubt. Check the manual here. No one going to remember and pretty much sure about everything here. This is very, very good practice. Doing this, keep checking the command manual here just means you know what you're doing.
Other options as well. For example, we can force what the group ID number is. And you'll see that under the C also right here that there's a command called group DEL. And so what I'm going to do is look at the man pages for that. Group DEL deletes a group. Okay, so I just provide a group name. So I might decide to go in here and say group DEL. I want to get rid of the Julie group. Well, we have a problem. We cannot remove the primary group of user Julie. Well, let me first of all add a group. Group add. I'll just call this reg users, so regular users. Now if I do a cat on my Etsy group file, you can see that it has ID of 501. So what I'm going to do is go back into the etc password file and make group 501 the primary group for user Julie. So then I'm able to delete the Julie group. Okay, so group DEL, Julie, and now it's gone. Let's just verify. You'll see that the Julie...
Yeah, you don't see Julie anymore. This is a very, very good tutorial. They show you how to do it. And this lady has done it in a very, very logical way. Try to find one command, then find a better command. After that, trying to create a user group, try to remove, cannot remove. How she's going to resolve that. So I'm going to create another group and join this the Julie group to the file 1, then delete the file 1. This is a very, very good logical thinking way of doing Linux.
Group is gone. So let me add one more user. I'm going to say user add, and I'll add Joe in here. And I'm going to change Joe's password. And now if I take a look at Joe's information, here he is right here. If I want his primary group to also be regular users, I can just modify that right there. Okay? So let me log in as user Julie. And I'm going to create a file called my file. And when I do an ls-l, that's a long listing, this tells me some information here. This first little bit here tells me that this is a regular file. The dash means it's a regular file. Next 3 entries has to do with permissions for the owner of the file. So Julie's the owner of the file, so Julie can read and write.
Yeah, pay attention to this. This is whenever we use for change mode. This is very, very important information. If you mess up here, you're going to mess up a lot. Mess up example is like going to show your resume to everyone in the company, or you are not allowing your group members to view in the group project. You are going to be in big trouble. So we have other read, write, executable. So which one? Is this one the user or the last one is the user? User, group, everyone. So make sure you understand here. Sometimes you get confused, but let's see.
But not execute the file. The next 3 characters are for the group. Okay, so what group are we talking about? Well, this file belongs to the reg users group. So anybody who belongs to the reg users group can simply read the file. And then the last category is everybody else. So if somebody has an account on the system, but they don't belong to the reg users group, all they can do is read the file. Okay, well, I hope this has been a nice informative video. Please visit our website at www.
Yeah, I would say this is a very, very good tutorial, and I'll strongly encourage anyone to review it one more time to learn more about how to create users and groups in Linux. In this tutorial, we're also going to show you when you have a problem, how to do a menu and how to resolve the problem. Play with it and how to switch from a normal user to a root user. This is a very, very good tutorial. Linux is like this way. Microsoft, you may want to learn Microsoft from official Microsoft website, and Linux, there's no such thing as official Linux website. So learn from anyone which is you believe is good, then learn from them. Very, very useful information. That's all I would like to share with you.